So I am here today with a big grin on my face because I have got the amazing Lance Schuttler here. And Lance, you are passionate about natural health, aren't you?
Absolutely, Catherine. Thank you for having me. I share the same grin with you.
Yeah, no, it's so good. I mean, what I'm really trying to do is introduce sort of my listeners to choices, to let them have choices, because we've all spent a lot of time over the last 2 years, quite rightly so, I think, really becoming aware of a lot of the challenges that are facing humans, the planet, the animals at the time. But I think for me personally, it's really time to focus on solutions now. Still keep ourselves educated, but giving people choice and solutions so that if things resonate for them, they feel empowered to actually do something about it. But before we really get cracking on that, can you just introduce yourself to our audience? Because some of them might not know you.
Yeah, so I studied health science at the University of Iowa here in the United States, and I've really always been into health and wellness, but in different ways. So when I was in high school, I played all the different sports and really was fit and active, and really loved, just being active and doing things with friends, and the sports was my life. And coincidentally or synchronistically at the same time, when I was in high school, I actually started playing online poker. And that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But why I bring that up is because online poker, Catherine, it actually really taught me a lot of really important life lessons, and it taught me how to think. Because when you're playing poker or any sort of game like that, there's a lot of critical thinking skills involved, and you're using your left analytical mind. But then I really had to learn to train the right side of my brain, the right hemisphere. The intuitive, the sort of like artistic side of it, because with that game you can play, and yes, there's a lot of math involved, but really when it comes down to is you have to utilize your senses and just kind of pick up on different tells and feels. And so it really taught me how to think and to ask the question why.
Mm.
Because when you're doing that stuff, playing those games, you always have to ask, okay, why is this person doing this? Why that? Why not this? And so it got me to really start questioning and thinking about the game, but then I translated that over into my own life. And so in 2011 is when I really started to become aware of a lot of different things going on in our world, and really started digging deeper into the health and wellness aspect. Um, and so it was really, really fascinating, because that question, why, as you know, and everyone listening knows, it's vitally important to get to truth and to understand things that are going on.
It really is, isn't it? And I love the fact that you brought in about needing to use the left and right side of our brain, because a lot of us don't get to do that in our day-to-day lives now. And I think therein lies half the problem. And also the fact that you learned that skill through online poker, it just shows that everything can be used for the good or for the bad, can't it? And it's not the actual tool itself, it's how you choose to use it. So, I mean, where do you think, before we get into some of the solutions, why do you think there's such a need now at the moment for where we're at for nutritional supplements or superfoods?
It's a great question. And I actually was thinking about this pretty in depth yesterday with something I was writing. And the, there's a lot of answers, but the answers that I have is, first and foremost, the information out there and disinformation and misinformation, primarily coming from big pharmaceutical interests and so forth. We're not told really anything close to the truth about health and wellness and nutrition. We're told here, this man-made synthetic pharmaceutical is going to take away your symptoms. It's not going to actually treat your condition or what's going on. It's just going to take away the symptoms. You can forget about it, just pop the pill and move on with your life. But as we know, and your audience knows, that's not a real solution, and that only just kicks the can down the road for further problems that will come later on. And then secondly, the like heavy metal heavy metal pollution and poisoning in a lot of different ways. People are becoming aware of that so much more now. And it's amazing because people just have not known about heavy metals and the contaminants in the water, the fluoride in the water, which, by the way, there's a meta review or a meta-analysis published by Harvard showing that there's several different studies that have concluded that fluoride in the water decreases IQ for humans, and it really inhibits the development of the brain in children. So, a lot of people will say there's nothing to that fluoride thing. If it was dangerous, they wouldn't put it in the water. That's not true. The studies show very clearly that it's very detrimental. I actually spoke with a water quality expert here in the US, like face to face, and we had many conversations about fluoride because he would go around to different cities and help with their water treatment and help do different things. And he told me the story that one time he was in a facility and they had some fluoride, some liquid fluoride, and the guy who was handling it said, be extremely careful with this, because if this drops on your shoe, it will burn through your shoe, and it will, just basically disintegrate your toe. They dropped a drop on cement, and it burned a hole in the cement, literally. So, dangerous stuff. But, going back to your original question, the heavy metals, the poisoning in all the different ways, what's, in the air, the water, the soil, all the pesticides. That's been a big passion and topic for me that I've been really trying to help educate myself and others on, which is the pesticides. Growing up in Iowa in the US, everyone's using pesticides, and it's just mind blowing to think, okay, why are you spraying that? It's a known carcinogen, and then you're going to eat it.
It's madness, isn't it? And I think, I'm really lucky because the type of anyone who's going to take the time to watch my videos, they're really well educated. They understand this, but it's frightening where so many times, gone are the times when you could Google, we won't go into that today, Google the health benefits of a certain food, because what that never tells you is it never tells you, how many toxins are in there as well. And so there's so much misleading information there. It's so sad that as a human race, and of course we inflict this then on any animals in our care as well, that it's actually become so difficult for us to feed ourselves in a healthy way. But I think the good thing about where we are now, and sort of, if we sort of put a stake in the ground now, so many people are aware of the problems now and are starting to educate and empower themselves to take back the choices. And one of the things about what I love what you've done with Ascent Nutrition, which we're going to come on to, is you're giving people choices. And believe me, everyone, I have been such a pain in the arse to Lance because I've quizzed him on this and this and this, and the quality of the products and the effort that you put into sourcing, production, making sure that the goodness isn't killed in the production process, etc., is absolutely wonderful. So when did you start Ascent Nutrition?
We started it in August of 2020, and the story actually ties into the pine pollen. So I have a very good friend. He and I were in my kitchen, and I had some pine pollen, and I was starting to take it because I was really interested in DHEA and looking for nature's best source of it.
What is DHEA for the listeners?
It's the lutein hormone.
Right.
Yeah.
From a good source, not from some of the other sources.
Yes, because there's a lot of synthetic. It's a steroid or phytohormone. We can get into that in a bit, but people use DHEA for brain health, mood, upliftment, cognition, supporting a healthy inflammatory response, a lot of different things. So we were in my kitchen, and I had been taking it for a little while, and I showed him, and I said, hey, try this out. And so he took some. This was the tincture version that we have, and he tried it, and we were just talking for a couple minutes, and he's like, wow, I think I can actually really feel something. And it wasn't surprising because that one was the tincture. And so those compounds will get directly into the bloodstream. And so he and I, Noah is his name, we started Ascent Nutrition. And Noah has moved on to do his own thing now, but he and I are still great friends, and we still talk about Ascent and all that. But yeah, that's how it started, and it really came from Catherine. Like, I've worked in the health and wellness field and the supplement field as a health coach and as a manager of a vitamin store, or the vitamin department, and I really was able to learn a lot of information about what makes different products great in terms of their quality, the dosage, the cleanliness, all that sort of stuff. And so with Ascent Nutrition, we started this so that we could offer the best of the best and the cleanest of the clean. We really want to offer things that are actually going to help people, because as you know, there's many wonderful products out there, and many companies that I support and products that I take from other companies. And we wanted to just have things that were actually going to help people, not just something that no one could feel, but things that people could feel and that it's going to actually help them.
Yeah, that's so important, because like every area of society, as we've learned, there's so much misinformation out there. And it's very easy to listen to a sales spiel, but when you then really dig into the details of it, that's when you really see how authentic. And then the proof of the pudding comes in the actual trying it. And one of the things before we go into some of the details, because there's two products I really want to speak to you about today, two of my absolute favorites. I think there's a lot of people, everyone is in a different position in terms of budget wise, what access to clean food they've got, what their current state of health is. So, how would you sort of address that issue? Because people have to really look at themselves as an individual, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I absolutely understand and empathize and have been in the situation. I'm very blessed and thankful to be not in that financial stress of where I was at one point in my life for quite some time. And, I'm sure everyone has experienced that sort of stress in different ways financially and, different situations. But we all know it's not fun being stressed financially. We do our very best to offer these at prices that are fair. Some of the products, like the two that we're going to talk about, they're a little higher in price, but there's very specific reasons for them. But we really do try our best to get these prices as low as we can while ensuring that we can continue as a company.
Yeah. And one of the things I've been talking about for this last year, Lance, is really all of us at whatever level that might be, to really putting our money where the mouth is. So as a family, we've made a decision that, we're only going to support with our purchases ethical companies that are really trying to do the best they can for the customers, for the environment, and for all creatures great and small, really. And I think what I would say before we go into the details, if something is out of your price range, there's always alternatives that you can do. So you can look at, say, some of these ingredients of this and see how you can get it from your food sources and things. So you can also take smaller dosages. Yes, things are dose dependent, but also it's the energetic signature that's going in. So I really encourage people to concentrate on what they can do. And what Lance and I are trying to do is bring people choices which might or might not be right for people at their stage in their lives. So can we start with the pine pollen? Because, oh my goodness, I absolutely love this. Now, I just want to show people, I don't know how clearly this will come out on camera, but the smell and the look of it, the color of it is absolutely beautiful. And I've used pine pollen products before, Lance, but nothing as good as this. So what makes this so special?
Great question, Catherine. So I'll share some information here, and I'll kind of go back and forth throughout this, to answer your questions as they come up. So what makes this so special? So as compared to other pine pollen products out there. So we are sourcing ours from Canada in remote forests. We work with some naturopaths and some very wonderful people who are harvesting with respect to the land. They know what they're doing. It's a very labor intensive process. So it's literally people hand picking and shaking off that pine pollen into big buckets. And they're doing this, 8+ hours a day. So that's the reason why the pine pollen, it's a little bit higher price, because it is very labor intensive, and, our cost to even source this stuff and get it here is already very, very high. So our margins on it are actually pretty low as compared to what other supplements can be. But again, that's like, we're willing to do that because we know that this helps people and will help people. And we just wanted to get it out there. But secondly, so most companies, Catherine, they're using a cracked cell wall pine pollen.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of marketing information about that. And if you look it up, you'll see, okay, cracked cell wall is the best. But that's not actually true. And the reason is because when they're cracking it, the way they're doing it is they're actually doing this process that's not natural. That's the short of it. But why they're doing it is because they say that they're making the nutrients more bioavailable, but what they're making more bioavailable is carbohydrates. And we aren't taking pine pollen to consume a few extra grams of carbs, because that's literally all you're getting, is it maybe a gram or two extra of carbs. Just eat, another bite of a piece of an orange or something, and you'll get way more than that. So it's a marketing thing. Why we're taking pine pollen is for all the different nutrients in it, 200+ different nutrients. I'll come back to that. But we do a whole uncracked cell wall, and then we do our extraction method. So you can see this down here, the bottom one, this is the cracked cell wall. And so when you crack it, it is exposed to the oxygen. The oxygen oxidizes it, or starts degrading it. And so the nutrients and the life force and the vitality of that pine pollen starts degrading instantly.
Yeah.
By the time it comes to your home, it's probably been months, maybe, a year or two. These two on the top, this is literally our pine pollen. And you can just see the color difference, the vibrational difference. What would a person rather consume? What looks more appealing? That's the question. Yeah.
We talk a lot, don't we, Lance, about people, tuning in with our intuition and our senses. And that's really important, because it has all got a vibrancy. And that's what really just struck me with this. I just add it to my water, and I just absolutely love it. It just has got a really amazing energetic signature. So what are some of these sort of active ingredients that are in the pine pollen? Why would people benefit from taking it?
So, okay, I've titled this article that I put together, "Here's Why Pine Pollen's the Top Superfood of the Times That We're In." And to answer your question, 200 different bioactive nutrients, so meaning 200 different nutrients that the body recognizes and can use. 14 vitamins, 24 minerals, all the amino acids, enzymes, and then it's nature's highest source of what are called phytohormones or steroids or phytoandrogens. It's all the same thing. But within that is DHEA, and that's a compound that we've talked about. And so what this is doing is these steroids, they're bioidentical in terms of their effects on us, but they're not going to have the effect as, let's say, like a synthetic testosterone or a synthetic DHEA would, because the body will get used to the synthetics. And the same will be true with the pine pollen. If you're taking it for months and months and months, the body will get used to it. So you do want to cycle on and off. But the point is, nature knows how to craft these nutrients that the body can use. We actually share some of our DNA in common with pine trees. So we're symbiotically connected to them to benefit. I'm going to just show this short little clip here. You can see this tree getting cut down and then all the pine pollen falling.
Wow.
or dispersing. Yeah. Now I call this stuff cosmic stardust because that's what it looks like when you held that jar up. When people, have it in their hands and they see it, the stuff it's finer than dust itself. I mean, along those same lines, and you can just tell like this is something really, really special.
Yeah.
Um, and why that or how that's happening is those pine trees. Um, I'll show this short little clip too. So those pine trees in nature, if you think about it, they're undergoing brutal conditions, especially in Canada. Uh, Hard winters, cold, windy, rainy, snowy, all of it. And so they're battling the elements and they have to protect themselves. They want to stay alive. So to do that, they have to create compounds that protects themselves. And part of this pine tree is the pollen that's created. And then we as humans consume that and we get, the amazing benefits of it. Something that I'd like to bring up with the DHEA, there's a study published in Nature, and I won't read the whole thing, but essentially what happened is the DHEA has been shown to enhance the connectivity between the amygdala and hippocampus, and that resulted in basically reducing the generation of negative emotions and enhance the activity in regions of the brains in the brain linked to regulatory processes. So what that means is DHEA can help people to not be as emotionally responsive or triggered in the negative ways, and can help the brain process, let's say, trauma or anger or just difficult emotions in healthier ways. So DHEA is really incredible stuff, and pine pollen is nature's highest source of it.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk over the last year or two about the benefits of pine needle tea, pine, because pine, when you look into it, I mean, I've worked with essential oils a lot, and the medicinal, you could write a whole great book just on the medicinal benefits from the different type of pine. It really is absolutely incredible. And as I said, what I love so much is the very low processing that goes into this, because you can have the best product, but if it can be really messed up in the processing process, can't it?
Absolutely. And ours remains a raw, wild, living food. That's something I don't think I've said, but yes, exactly. It's living. It's a living food. It's not irradiated. It's not sprayed. It's not denatured in any way. It's the real deal.
It's just fantastic. So I really, really love that. And it's beautiful. And there's so many ways you can do it. And my dogs and cats love it too. So should we go on and talk about this one, which I was so happy. So obviously all the links, folks, as usual, in the description box under the video will be all the links to this report. So anyone that wants to go into it in more detail will be able to see that, and also the links to where to buy. But when I got really excited was your algae oil. So long story, I won't bore people with too many details, but I work a lot with animal health, and there's a huge deficiency issue in animals and in humans. And of course, in the good old days, we used to talk about fish oils and why fish oil was such an important supplement for people and for animals. But there's so many problems with fish oils now. There's the ethical side of things, because the amount of fish that are harvested and killed is just ridiculous numbers, figures that I couldn't even believe. But very importantly, there's huge contamination issues with fish oils now as well, aren't there, Lance?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, just thinking about it from a really straightforward sense of, we know the oceans and the waters have been so polluted, and of course where the fish is coming from, it's going to be different every time. Water's always moving, there's new contaminants coming in, there's some coming out, all of that. So it's, I mean, just to think about it logically, of course the fish are going to be contaminated. It is going to be different, the source from where they came, all that sort of stuff. But in general, absolutely. And secondly, for DHA, the fish eat the algae. The algae make the DHA, and the fish
What
eat
is
the
DHA?
docosahexaenoic acid.
Oh,
Uh,
darn, I made you say that, not me.
yeah, yeah. Um, uh, so that's the omega-3, or one of the omega-3 fatty acids, polyunsaturated, and it, like you said, people often equate that to fish oils and fish, and that's true. But again, the fish eat the algae. So kind of why I wanted to do this is I've always been interested in just going to the source of things. Like the pine pollen. I was literally trying to find what's nature's highest source of DHEA. And I came across the pine pollen, and then, started doing my research and found a phenomenal source of it. And then same with this DHA, started learning, okay, where does the DHA actually come from? And I learned it's actually from the algae. The fish eat the algae. Um, so just wanted to go try to find a clean, pure source. And in terms of like the industrial side of it, the processing involved in the fish industry, I mean, you can just tell like there's so much extra labor and extra work and processing and all that stuff that really, like a lot of it's not really even necessary, because you can just, in terms of if you're wanting the DHA, if you're wanting the DHA, just go to the source.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, anyone who watches me knows that the ethical side of things are really, really important. And when we
Absolutely.
have a choice to do better, like we have in this circumstance, we can do better. So talk us through why this is literally one of the most important things for human and animal health, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So there's this neuroscientist, Michael Crawford, in London, and he's the director of the Institute of Brain Chemistry and Human Nutrition. And he published a study back in 2012, uh, essentially stating, and I mean, he actually has stated this, that DHA is actually more important than DNA itself. Okay.
Mm.
So, that's his opinion, and he has his science to back up his view on it. The more that I've learned, the more that I agree with him. I mean, I definitely still have loads more to learn, but it's very compelling what he's put forth. But we know specifically, like this is unequivocal, DHA has actually been very responsible for the evolution of different animals and us as humans. And I say this, the evolution, not from a Darwinian standpoint, because I don't think that's accurate, but just in general, how animals and species evolve and how things change. But DHA, so most compounds, Catherine, as you know, in nature with evolution, they'll change due to environmental circumstances because they have to.
Yeah.
And they have to stay energy efficient. Everything's all about energy and making sure that everything is as efficient as possible. DHA, for millions or billions of years, or whatever the real number is, has not changed at all, because it has served its role so fundamental for the brain, the eyes, and the nervous system, and actually for sperm as well. It's a fundamental component in sperm. So,
and that's so important because the fertility rates in humans are at an all-time low, aren't they? Because there's been so many assaults on sperm health and egg health. So it is really important, folks, this.
yeah, absolutely. And DHA actually has quantum mechanical properties. I'll get into that here in a little bit. But 97%, the brain, in terms of the fatty acids, the omega-3s, the ratio, it needs 97% DHA and only 3% EPA. So, there's a lot of information about why EPA, some will say it's more important than DHA, or you need a certain ratio that actually isn't correlating to what the human biology needs. So we went for and found a source that we water extract the DHA and a little bit of EPA from this algae, and we have the closest ratio of any company out there in the world, and I can authentically state that. Like, we've looked at all of them, and there's no one else doing it. if someone has, please share it with me, and be happy to take back that statement. But the sunlight captures the DHA.
Yeah.
It's the light energy, the photons from the sun, and then it converts it into an electrical signal or voltage that the brain, the eyes, and the whole nervous system uses. And I mean, they call it the master omega for maximizing mental and cognitive speed. And I want to share something really interesting too, that when I came across it was mind blowing, and this will tie into DHA. So the human brain has about 86 billion neurons and 150 trillion synapses, but the speed of those neural signals are about 2 million times slower compared to computers like the one we're on right now, and that these computers are about 10 million times faster in terms of signals per second. But the brain makes up for that because of the sheer number of neurons and synapses that it has. And there within that is voltage and electricity and energy. And so we can measure voltage. What you do is you just take the electrical or the electro potential difference between 2 points. And so the voltage across a neuron's membrane is about 0.07 volts. How that compares to a AA battery is about 1.15. So it's much stronger than the voltage on the neuron's membrane. But you then have to calculate how thick is that neuronal membrane. And it's 5 nanometers. And so the equation comes out to be the voltage across the neuronal membrane in the brain is 14 million volts per meter. But to produce lightning, all that's needed is 3 million volts per meter. So the brain is about close to 5 times stronger in terms of the voltage than what's needed to create lightning. Crazy.
Wow, absolutely crazy. And so many people now are realizing that we are capable of so much more than we've ever been led to believe. And people are really opening up to those possibilities now. And the whole, prefix of this junk DNA and parts of our brain not used, we know that we've got all these abilities in there. And I think what you and myself and others like us are trying to do is just to bring our mind, body, spirit in balance to sort of negate. We could talk all day about what's wrong with our environment, our world, our food, our water, or we can say, sod it, we're going to do something about it and override these issues whilst we go back and clear up the mess, sort of thing.
Absolutely. We just have to keep moving forward and just using and working towards solutions, because the old ways, they aren't going to work, and we don't even need to focus on them. I mean, they're collapsing under their own weight, which is awesome.
It really is. And nature really does have all the answers. And, working with companies like yours, where you're very ethical in the way that you harvest, produce things, is so, so important. But because, again, we don't want to rape and pillage nature. We just want to be very grateful for what they're offering up to us to help us at these times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So DHA, so in Australia, their public health policy strongly recommends that pregnant women and nursing get 800 milligrams or more of DHA per day, because the fetus, the baby, needs that DHA. Again, the brain and nervous system, the DHA is a fundamental component of that. So it's not just like, okay, you maybe need it, or you maybe just need a little bit of it. No, you need a good amount of it continually, because the whole brain, nervous system, and eyes is being developed off of DHA. Other things for sure too, but DHA is most fundamental.
It's just amazing. And I love, with my scientific hat on, I've loved reading the information. So again, everyone, all the links will be below. Now, when I got this algae oil from you, I tried it. I work with something called zoopharmacognosia, which is animals self-medicating. So far I've tried it on all 3 dogs and 3 out of my 5 cats, because the others I haven't got to try it on yet. All of those absolutely went mad for it. They love it. They know when something's really good for them. So I will be feeding back from everyone what I'm noticing with myself and my animals with this, because I've been trying to source something like this for a long while, but hadn't come across anything until this one that I was happy with quality wise. So I am very grateful. There's so much we can talk about, Lance, but I think that's given people a good flavor for a couple of your key products. But also, this isn't about trying to sell people something, it's about giving them choices, and if they think that this is something that they really would need or benefit from, that hopefully they've got the trust that this is authentic, it's really going to work, and it's produced in the quality that they need to make a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. Yeah, and we've got really exciting things coming too. A lot of products lined up in the coming weeks and months. So
I'm really excited. There's so many more I want to go through with you, but I don't want to overwhelm people by going through too much. And I would say to people, use your intuition and trust it, in terms of, you don't need to be taking masses of different things. It's like, Louise Hay says, if you're going to spring clean your house, you need to get around all the rooms, but you'll all have different rooms that you want to start in. And that's what I would say. If you're feeling that you need something to help you at this current time, then go for a company that really knows what they're doing, and the products are really clean, ethically sourced, and with the right intent. So thank you so much, Lance. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover today?
I'll say for the UK and European customers that we're not shipping there yet. We've had to go through just some different things to get it set up to do it the right way. But it should be live within the next 4 weeks from the date of this broadcast. It should be. You can keep checking back, and we're going to turn it on as fast as we can.
And I'll give everyone an update. So the links for if you want to buy them will be below the videos, and I will keep you all updated for those of you in the UK and Europe about when you can actually get the products. But we wanted to tell people about them now, because certainly for me, they're transformational. And if I find something I really like, I really want to share it with people. So thank you so much for your time today, Lance. I really hope that you can come back and tell us some more and some of the science behind some of these amazing products you're offering.
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. This was amazing.
Take care, everyone. Hope you got something useful out of it. Let us know below, and we'll be back. Bye.